backstory, show you a little bit of the product, and then of course field any questions you may have. We'll do that over the next 10 or 15 minutes, and field questions, as I mentioned, as we move through. So a little bit about today's landscape, which is certainly familiar to many of you. E-books, for example, have been on the market for years and years and years, but they often replicate a textbook experience. Now, we love textbooks at Cengage Learning. We produce millions of textbooks, but that exact experience in an online environment may not be, and often our students tell us, is not conducive to quality learning in a digital environment. There are a host of great digital solutions that are available, whether it's a media asset or a homework solution or what have you. They tend to live in various different locations, come to you from different authors, have slightly different contexts. Of course, we see the emergence of digital and mobile devices. You don't have to go but 5 feet here at Educause to see about 10 different examples, whether it's phones, iPads, and beyond. And so there is a need to synchronize, so to speak, and allow us to provide content now that will work in an environment where our students want to learn. And then, of course, there's a desire to personalize digital content. We can do an incredibly good job of personalizing print, the textbook that's in a classroom, what have you. But how do we allow you as educators or you as system administrators to personalize the digital experience to meet the outcomes for your course? So these are all parts of the landscape that we have out in the market today. And Cengage, along with EduVentures, conducted a study a year ago that showed us basically validating that technology in the classroom, when the right technology, will engage students, students will learn, and they will help increase the outcomes. This is what we've got here in some bullet points that I just gave you in a nutshell. So the instructors believe the right content will help engage students. Students believe that they want to engage with digital solutions, but not just for the sake of doing. How does this tie to my class? What's the point? What did I pay for it? Why is this relevant? They want all those questions answered and know what that purpose is. And that's a big part of the backstory on why we created MindTap. So MindTap, we are defining, is a personal learning experience. This is a software program. It's not just an e-book. It's not just homework. It's not an assessment by itself or an individual resource supplement or an LMS. It is, in fact, all of these things and partners with existing LMS. This is not an LMS, but we work with all of our major partners, many of which are here at Educause. So we're taking the best of all of those things and putting into one platform that works in an environment specific to your economics course, to your history course, to your medical terminology course, your introduction to business course, and beyond. It is, in fact, a delivery platform, products driving engagement, and outcomes-based learning, but also includes a series of services. And we'll talk a little bit more about what those services are. Think apps and think a variety of other services that will help support education. As I mentioned apps, it is built on a powerful framework of apps that we call MindTap. So we think about apps and going to the App Store with your iPad, and that's kind of a similar framework, but these are apps that are tied specifically to this platform, work in this environment. So they could be a NetTutor app that will allow students in an economics course to access a tutor 24/7, no matter where they are or what they're doing. It could be a Kaltura app, which allows instructors to bring in video from wherever they have to build it into their course, into the reading experience, what have you. So we have these apps, Read Speaker apps and beyond. This will grow considerably, and we're working with a variety of partners, and anybody developing apps to be able to bring this in and personalize that experience. And then all this is based on the backbone of a MindTap reader. I talked about that text experience. You don't want to just take that experience, slap it up on a screen and say, hey, now it's digital. Go forth and learn. It doesn't work that way. So the MindTap reader is included as a backbone to this. It's a very interactive reader experience that allows students to engage in video, engage with a note-taking functionality, engage with a lot of the end-of-chapter content, all within one platform, all immediately graded, captured, and allowing them to do the work that they've done in a very productive manner. So, how does it work? And we'll show you some examples here in a minute. Cloud-based technology, so it's anytime, anywhere. So if you're in a classroom, great. You want to use a lecture tool and students access it there, great. You're home doing your homework, great. Computer lab, library, you're set, you're at home, you're fine. You're on a Mac, great. You're on a PC, you're fine there as well. Integrates into any LMS. We have partnerships, many of which we've announced here at Educause with Blackboard. We've been long-term partners with Blackboard, with D2L, Moodle Rooms, Sakai, Structure, and beyond. So we're very excited about that. Takes all of these assets into one experience. So we talk about the text narrative, we talk about the benefits of your LMS, we talk about assignments, all of that now in one experience. So you're able to assign readings, homework, all from one experience, have all that data captured. So you're not having to link out to 17 different places. You can then harness, of course, the power of your LMS as you move through. And then one of the parts of this that has gotten the best feedback so far from our instructors and our customers is the ability to personalize. So we can give you all this content, and that's all well and good. We have market-leading content in every discipline area from accounting to zoology. So we're very proud of this. But you now have the ability to personalize that in a digital format. That could include bringing in your own Word documents, PDFs, video, lecture caption, whatever that is. You can now build that in, and not just for the sake of having it there, but it's now going to live in line in that reading experience. So when you are in Chapter 2 and you're in economics and you're talking about supply and demand, and you have the greatest video example or PDF or picture you think will supplement that, it's going to drop in at the paragraph level in the margin for students to be able to engage in and access right there and have that experience. So you now can personalize this, reorder chapters, move content in and out as you see fit. The only thing you really can't do is edit the copyrighted content, but that's pretty standard across the board. But it puts the power of that learning experience very much in the hands of the instructors. So we created it for many reasons that I just laid out earlier. The technology, the right technology, will lead to better outcomes. Students are learning in different formats and varieties, and so we are trying to help institutions find the best way to engage them. And many of the efforts today from a variety of technology companies are very good, but they're very focused. We have a series of excellent learning solutions that are very targeted in a particular area. This helps blend that experience together to allow instructors to have the best of all. And as far as what makes a difference, our ability to be a partner with every LMS is a big part of that. So no matter what investment your institution has made, whether it is to work with a Blackboard, for example, or to work with an open source platform like Sakai, we're going to be able to work with you and let you harness that investment and support you there. And of course, if there's something that you feel is not there, you're going to be able to add content in that you think is appropriate and really have a good personalized experience. And that's very much what's at the heart of it. We are in the process, when we say testing, we actually have a series of users that are working with MindTap in classroom environments with students right now, this term, and we will continue that as we move and expand our offering as we go forward. So that's a big part of what we're doing here at Educause, is to talk to more customers that may be interested in having this experience, and we're giving them plenty of opportunities to participate with us. So we have a live environment in the background that I may try to dive into here, but just to give you a couple of examples in case we have any connectivity issues, I want to give you a little idea of what we're looking at here. So MindTap exists in and as I mentioned, it is its own platform, but works directly within an LMS, or can work as a standalone. But you have your landing page here. As you can see, you're going to have your reading experience. Here's a textbook that you're used to seeing, in this case an economics title. On the far right is our Mind Apps doc. So I talked about those apps earlier. This is where those Mind Apps live. As we move through, this is again based on the content. It's content very much king here as we're moving through. Without good content, you're not going to have a successful experience. Learning Path is the structure for this. So here we have the layout of a series of chapters. What is economics, the supply and demand, etc. But it's not just the reading experience. You now have your activities all here within the Learning Path by chapter. You have all of your homework assignments here by chapter. And right here, the ability for you as an instructor, if you are an instructor or a system admin, to personalize that experience. You can add your own activity and put it right here in this experience. And so if you have your own homework assignment that you want to bring in, or as I mentioned before, different type of documents, you can bring that in, assign these, make them gradable, you can make them optional. All grades are captured in a gradebook that can then be imported into your existing learning management system. So as I mentioned there, kind of jumping ahead, due dates, counts towards grade. Students then basically have a living syllabus right there in front of them. You can obviously modify, update, send messages to students as you move throughout. And then as I mentioned, the ability for you to add activity, move activities. And again, it's not just homework, but in econ, we could have a little history lesson. If you're writing assignments in there, all of this is going to design again on that apps framework. So as we look ahead here a little bit, now we're into the reading experience. This is again designed knowing that we're not just working off a laptop. We're going to work off multiple devices. So you're going to have a reading experience that's structured in a manner that's going to engage on multiple devices. So it's going to fit those screens and what have you. This reading experience right here, as you can see, section 1.1, you have the ability to highlight. You have the ability to take notes, the same way you would if you had a print book in class and wanted to do these things as well. All of those are opportunities for students as you move through. Everything that a student does in that respect is now captured in one of the Mind Apps, the Mind App Reader. And that's what's displayed here on the right-hand screen. So you still have your reading experience, your text experience, and then you have your MindTap reader, if you want that expanded as well, every note I took, every highlight I made is right there. I basically built my own study guide as I've gone through the content. So if I'm taking notes in class, I'm building the study guide. If I am studying on my own, taking notes, I'm building a study guide. I can go in here anytime, click on a link back into the reading experience, or go through my notes for any particular chapter. And I have all of that. And I also have the ability to capture and save that at the end of the term, so I'm able to walk away with my content in that respect. Also note that the reading experience, you'll see up here an icon of a pencil. So as an instructor, you are now able to go in, and if you don't want a particular chapter there, you're going to be able to remove that chapter. If you want to focus more on, in this case, a PowerPoint deck that is built right within the reading experience, you can remove that or highlight that or bring in your own. If you do opt to bring in your favorite Word document, picture of your kids, your pets, whatever you think is appropriate here, lecture capture, what have you, it will live along, I talked about it being inline earlier, right here in the paragraph space. So you'll be able to add that in. So a student's not having to go to the end of the chapter and say, well, what else is there, to a different file or what have you. When they're reading this content, and they're on page 12, chapter 2, they're going to see that you said, don't forget this is key for a test on Friday, or please take a look at this video, or here was the group work that you did last week, now it's tied directly to this lesson. So it's very much tied to that learning experience in a very personal, very context-specific level. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the ability to take advantage of some of these other mind apps. So this is an example of one here. This is with our not even our sister company, all part of Cengage Learning now, Gale, which is our library reference organization with millions of library reference resources and hundreds of libraries across the globe. We have the ability now to harness that content, in this case, in an economics title. So not only am I participating in reading about supply and demand, but now I have an assignment that says I need to go find some content on GDP and population for Australia. That's popping up right here as one of my mind apps. While I'm going through, while I'm working with students, all self-contained, I can get that data and work my way through. Or as an instructor, use this tool to help shape discussion or to personalize the learning experience a little bit further. In addition, Google Docs apps have all of the ability to collect your content in one place, which of course you can also embed in the reading experience. You have the ability from social media with Connect Jars to bridge the learning gap. If all our students are on Facebook, we can now connect much of this content to Facebook, to Twitter, through ConnectJar, Kaltura, Panopto, others that are going to allow for video and or lecture capture. And this is growing. We're also working with specific institutions on their needs to be able to develop mind apps that will fit their use of MindTap at their institution that might help drive learning vehicles that are specific to University of Michigan or to University of Cincinnati or whatever the case may be. So we are working with third-party partners there and apps developers, and they're now starting to bring us ideas of how they want to further personalize this, which is great for us and has us So John's comment here about mobile capabilities, what does this look like as we're moving forward? And this is very much a product that's designed for a traditional classroom environment. It can certainly work in distance education, it can be instructor-led, but it's really just driven as your course material. We know the same way you would go now and buy a textbook, and that would be your course material. This is that experience plus so much more because your homework is included and everything else. So whether you are, again, learning from a mobile device or you're accessing it while you're in Indiana visiting your in-laws or whatever the case is, you're going to be able to access this the same way you would if you were in class or at a computer lab there in the library, whatever the case is. So that's a very key aspect to this, that anytime, on demand, anywhere learning is going to be very important. Also, practice type of activities, talking about mind apps, in this case, flashcards. You do all the research about content that we provide in a digital environment. We've got a lot of great stuff. All publishers have a lot of great stuff. You'd be very interested to find out flashcards and quizzes right before a test that become the most popular content that students want to access. That's where they go right before they want to get down and dirty. So we're mindful of that, so we bring that content in here as well. Again, I mentioned Read Speaker earlier is another app, Mind App example. We'll read the content out loud, so it helps from an accessibility standpoint. You get the idea of the diversity of apps that are here in the direction that this is moving. And I mentioned that tutor earlier, so getting some tutor support. So the only other thing I'd like to mention here, and then John, maybe you can chime in if you have any other comments or thoughts, is related to, I talked about the homework. And when I showed you the learning path up front, and I'll hop back there, maybe I can actually log in here real quick and show you that live. But when we take a look here back in your learning path, homework. So these are not true-false quizzes. These are not multiple choice quizzes. This is a homework these are problem sets. So those who might be familiar with the Applia solution, that is a big part of what this is in an economics title. So it is looking at a graph, manipulating a graph, doing cognitive type of work where you're actually having to analyze, and then you're getting multiple tries in some instances. Your grades are immediately captured, but it's based on somewhat of an algorithmic model, so students are not going to all see the same problems, but they're going to see the same problems in similar contexts. And they're going to be able to practice. And they're going to be able to practice more, and then they're going to be able to practice a little bit more. And somewhere around the fourth time they practice, they've learned it, and then they're going to be asked to apply it. So this is much more than your standard 5-question quiz or 20-question multiple choice quiz. We have content like that. We have quizzes and tests that are built in here, but it's very robust activities, very robust homework. So are there any questions or comments at this point as I've successfully rambled on here for a little bit?
Told this. I'd just like to elaborate a little bit on what Brian mentioned about integration with learning management systems, because that is a core component of the MindTap product model vision. 90% of institutions use a learning management system of some sort, a Blackboard, Desire to Learn, Moodle Rooms, etc. We're seeing almost a fracturing of the marketplace, if you will, of the usage of various open source learning management systems and things that are built from scratch at different schools. When we say integration with a learning management system, Brian had mentioned that we take the approach that we are LMS agnostic. So if you at an institution, if you're a system administrator managing at an institution, if you move to a different learning management system, you can still use our product. It will work with any different learning management system. What does it mean, will it work with a learning management system? There are a couple of things that we can do with MindTap, integrating it with an LMS. The first is we can facilitate a single sign-on from your LMS into MindTap, into many of our other digital products. A single sign-on, so instructors and students don't have to manage multiple usernames and passwords. And you may not know this, but account management accounts for about 60% of our tech support calls at Cengage as well. So people just have difficulty with usernames and passwords. The second thing that we can facilitate with a learning management system, in addition to single sign-on, is that we can support site licenses. So we can set up a situation in which students would not have to use an access code to access MindTap. Again, that takes up a lot of our support resources. Managing access codes is cumbersome in some particular situations. A couple of other things that we will be integrating in the future. One is the ability to transfer grades from MindTap back to the learning management systems. Not only grades, but we're also trying to focus on ways we can transfer additional engagement data back to the Gradebook Center in different learning management systems. And when we say data, we mean things like, was this video accessed? How much time did students spend with this particular tool, etc. So time on task as well as access and additional data. And then the last thing is, for integrating with learning management systems, we want to be able to link not just to the front door of MindTap and then have students navigate within it. We want to be able to have the instructor link directly, let's say, to the flashcards or directly to a specific learning activity. So if an instructor or an institution wants to set up the course so it appears to be within the body of the learning management system itself, we can facilitate that. So deep linking into learning management systems as well, too. Okay. Any other questions? I'm going to turn it back over to Brian. Thank you very much.
And a big part of what John just discussed is a big part of our MindLinks program that was mentioned here at the outset. Our ability to provide a service that will allow our content to work with our LMS partners, which we're able to do now. And now we're talking about much deeper integration opportunities with our friends from Blackboard and beyond. So we're very excited about that. So on behalf of John and other colleagues at Cengage Learning, we very much appreciate the opportunity, your time, and attention to walk through MindTap. We're very excited about the potential, those that are using it now and those that will be using it in the near future. If you have any interest in an early adopter program opportunity, feel free to see John or myself. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference experience.